I stood in the corner of our family's oversized living room, watching my father dramatically rise from his wheelchair, the same wheelchair he'd guilted me into paying for these past 5 years. The gathered crowd of family friends gasped and applauded as if witnessing a miracle. I took another sip of champagne, forcing myself to maintain my pleasant smile while my stomach churned. I'm Sophia, and I've spent the last 5 years of my life sacrificing everything to support my family after my father's accident. I gave up my dream job at a prestigious architecture firm in Chicago, moved back home to manage his medical bills, and poured every cent of my savings into keeping our family afloat. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration of his recovery. Instead, it became the night I finally saw my family for who they really were. "Everyone, please," my father called out, raising his glass. His voice carried that familiar, authoritative tone that had always commanded attention. "I have an announcement to make." My mother squeezed my arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my skin. "Isn't this wonderful, darling?" she whispered, but something in her voice made my skin crawl. "As you all know, my eldest daughter, Sophia, has been instrumental in supporting our family through these difficult times." My father continued, his eyes meeting mine across the room. "Her dedication and sacrifice have meant everything to us." The crowd murmured in agreement. Mrs. Richards, our nosy neighbor, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. If only they knew. "And now," he paused for dramatic effect, "we've decided to put Sophia's savings to their best possible use. We're helping her sister Serenity open her dream boutique." The room erupted in applause. I froze, my champagne glass halfway to my lips. "What?" The word escaped before I could stop it. Serenity bounced forward, her designer dress catching the light. "Oh my God, isn't it amazing?" she squealed, throwing her arms around me. "Daddy says we can use all the money you've been saving. The lease is already signed." My head spun. The money I'd been saving? My emergency fund? The remains of my architecture career? Gone? "When?" I started, but Serenity was already turning away, accepting congratulations from the guests. "We knew you'd want to help your sister achieve her dreams," my mother said softly, patting my arm. "You've always been so generous, Sophia." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the calculation behind her smile. They hadn't asked. They hadn't even told me. They'd just taken. "Excuse me," I managed, setting down my glass. "I need some air." As I walked toward the bathroom, I heard my father continuing his speech, telling everyone how proud he was of both his daughters, how Serenity's boutique would be a family legacy, how fortunate we all were. Instead of turning left toward the bathroom, I went right, straight to the front door. Outside, the cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in hours, I could breathe. My phone buzzed in my clutch. Probably my mother, wondering where I'd gone, but it wasn't her. It was Javier, my childhood friend who'd been watching this circus unfold all evening. "You okay?" his message read. I thought about the documents I'd discovered last week in my father's study, about the miraculous timing of his recovery, about the credit card statements I'd found in my name that I'd never signed for. My fingers moved across the screen. "Start it." His reply came instantly. "You sure?" I looked back at the house, at the warm lights and celebrating people inside, at my family who'd spent 5 years bleeding me dry while planning their next theft, at my sister who'd never worked a day in her life but felt entitled to everything I'd sacrificed. "Yes?" I typed. "Start it all." I walked to my car, my heels clicking against the pavement. Behind me, I could hear laughter floating through the open windows, the sound of champagne corks popping, my sister's voice rising above it all as she detailed her boutique plans. Let them celebrate tonight, I thought, sliding into the driver's seat. By tomorrow morning, they'd learn exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. My phone buzzed one more time. Javier again. "It's done. Account's locked down. You won't believe what else I found." I started the engine, a smile playing at my lips. "Tell me everything," I replied. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. I looked different somehow. Lighter, clearer, free. For the first time in 5 years, I was done being the family sacrifice. Now it was time for them to learn about consequences. I woke up in my new apartment to the sound of my phone exploding with notifications. It was 7:03 a.m., right about when my family would be discovering their new reality. I stretched, feeling oddly peaceful as I scrolled through the messages. "What did you do?" Serenity's all-caps text screamed at me. 14 missed calls from my mother, 3 voicemails from my father. I played the first voicemail on speaker while making coffee. "Sophia, the power's out. The accounts are frozen. Call me immediately." My father's voice had lost its usual smugness, replaced by barely controlled panic. Javier's morning text popped up. "Ready for breakfast? Brought those financial records you asked for." 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from him at a quiet cafe, spreading out papers across the table. Javier looked up from his laptop, whistling low. They really thought they'd get away with it, didn't they? "Show me," I said, pushing my untouched croissant aside. He turned the screen toward me. "Your father took out 3 loans in your name over the past 4 years. The signatures are forged, but they're good forgeries. He must have had help." My phone buzzed again. Serenity. I put it on speaker. "You absolute bitch," she shrieked. The boutique lease payment bounced. "Do you know how embarrassing that is?" "About as embarrassing as discovering your family stole your life savings," I replied calmly. "We didn't steal anything. Daddy said you agreed." "Really?" I cut her off. "Then explain why there's already $50,000 in credit card debt under my name for your precious boutique. Debt from 3 months ago, Serenity, before Dad's miraculous recovery announcement." The line went silent. "That's what I thought," I said, and hung up. Javier raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" I nodded, pulling another document from his stack. "Look at this. The timestamps on Dad's medical bills don't match his therapy sessions. Almost like he was better long before he let on." Javier finished. "Using your money for other things." My phone lit up with a text from Mrs. Richards. "Your mother's crying on her front porch. The garbage truck just drove past without stopping. Something about unpaid bills? Is everything all right?" I smiled, remembering all the times Mrs. Richards had gossiped about other families' misfortunes. "Let her cry," I muttered. "Sophia," Javier said softly. "There's more." He slid another paper across the table. "Your sister's been meeting with Gerald, your family's financial advisor. Weekly meetings starting 6 months ago." I scanned the document, my blood running cold. There it was in black and white, a detailed plan to secure my savings for Serenity's boutique, complete with contingencies for my potential resistance. My phone rang again. This time, it was my mother. "How could you do this to us?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "We're your family." "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing," I replied. "How's Dad's miracle recovery going?" "You don't understand." "No, Mom, I understand perfectly. 5 years of my life, my career, my savings, all gone because you and Dad saw me as your personal ATM. Well, guess what? The ATM is closed." "Please," she whispered. "The mortgage payment is due tomorrow. I know. Shame you spent this month's payment on Serenity's boutique deposit instead. But hey, at least you gotta have a nice party, right?" I hung up as Javier's phone pinged. He checked it and grinned. "The bank just confirmed. All the fraudulent accounts in your name have been flagged. They're launching an investigation." My phone buzzed with another text from Serenity. "The boutique investors are pulling out. They say there's something wrong with the paperwork. You have to fix this." I turned my phone off and looked at Javier. "What's next?" He pulled up another document. "Gerald's been sloppy. These records show he helped your father hide assets during the accident claim. If this gets out..." "When," I corrected him. "When this gets out. Sophia." He hesitated. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Your family stopped being my family the moment they decided to steal my future," I said, taking the document from him. "They just didn't expect me to steal it back." I stood up, gathering the papers. Send everything to my lawyer. And Javier? Thank you for helping me see the truth. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Where are you going? I smiled, thinking of the architectural drafting table I'd just set up in my new apartment. To start building my life again, this time without the dead weight. As I walked out, my phone lit up one last time, a notification from my bank. The transfer was complete. My money was safe, moved to new accounts my family couldn't touch. Let them deal with the consequences of their choices. I had blueprints to draw. The stack of loan documents on my coffee table grew higher as Javier and I dug deeper into my family's web of lies. Each paper revealed a new betrayal, a fresh wound I hadn't even known existed. Look at this one, Javier said, holding up a loan application. Dated 3 years ago. They used your architect's license number as collateral. My hands shook as I grabbed the paper. That's why I kept getting rejected for professional insurance, I whispered. They destroyed my credit before I even knew what was happening. My phone lit up with another call from Gerald, my family's financial advisor. I'd been ignoring him for days, but this time I answered. Sophia, please, he started, his usual confident tone replaced with desperation. Your father is willing to negotiate. I laughed, cold and sharp. Negotiate what, Gerald? The identity theft? The fraud? Or maybe the way you helped him fake his recovery timeline? Those are serious accusations. They're not accusations when I have proof. I shuffled through the papers, finding the one I wanted. Like the document you notarized showing Dad was at physical therapy on March 15th last year. Funny because I have security footage of him playing golf that same day. Silence on the other end. Still want to negotiate? Your sister's boutique investors are threatening legal action, he said quietly. They're saying the business plan was fraudulent. Well, they're not wrong. I pulled up an email on my laptop. I'm looking at messages between you and Serenity from 6 months ago, planning how to use my money without my consent. That's fraud, Gerald. You know that better than anyone. Sophia, please. Send my regards to the ethics board, I said, hanging up. Javier looked up from his laptop. You're not really going to report him, are you? Already did, this morning. I showed him the confirmation email from the State Financial Regulatory Board. Anonymous tip about multiple ethics violations. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Richards. Your sister's having a meltdown at the country club? Something about bounced checks? Your mother's mortified. Before I could respond, another message came through. This one from Serenity herself, with an image attached. My breath caught. It was a photo from 5 years ago, the day I'd left my dream job in Chicago. I was standing outside the architecture firm, trying to smile through tears. Remember this? Serenity's message read, When you came home to help? That's what family does. You're destroying everything. I typed back. No, that's what you made me do. Want to explain these? I sent screenshots of her messages to Gerald, planning how to siphon my savings. 3 dots appeared as she typed, then disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, you weren't supposed to find those. Obviously. We needed that money. The boutique was my dream. And architecture was mine. Funny how that worked out. I blocked her number before she could respond, but my hands were shaking. Javier noticed. Hey, he said softly. Take a look at this instead. He handed me another document, an insurance claim from the time of Dad's accident. My eyes widened as I read. The payout, I said. It was 3 times what they told me. Where did all that money go? Javier pulled up a series of bank statements. Luxury car payments, country club memberships, Serenity's shopping sprees. He paused. They never needed your money, Sophia. They just didn't want to spend theirs. A knock at my door made us both jump. Through the peephole, I saw my mother, mascara streaking her face. Sophia, please, she called through the door. We need to talk. I opened it but blocked the entrance. About what, Mom? About how you watched me give up everything while you kept shopping at Nordstrom? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled out the insurance claim. $3 million, Mom. That's what Dad's accident settlement really was, not the 300,000 you told me about. She paled. Where did you get that? The same place I got proof of the credit cards you opened in my name. The loans, the lies. I stepped back. You should go. My lawyer will be in touch. Lawyer? Her voice cracked. We're family. No, I said, closing the door. Family doesn't do what you did to me. Through the door, I heard her sob, then her heels clicking away down the hall. Javier stood up, gathering the documents. You okay? I walked to my drafting table, running my fingers over a new design I'd started, my first in 5 years. I will be, I said. I finally will be. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from the State Ethics Board. They wanted to meet about my evidence against Gerald. I smiled. The dominoes were falling, one by one, exactly as planned. The restaurant I chose for our reconciliation brunch was expensive enough to make my family feel comfortable, but public enough to keep them civil. I arrived early, setting my phone to record before sliding it partially under my napkin. Serenity arrived first, wearing designer sunglasses that couldn't quite hide her puffy eyes. This better be good, she snapped, dropping into the chair across from me. The boutique landlord is threatening to sue. Really? I sipped my mimosa. That must be stressful. My parents arrived moments later, my father walking perfectly normally, no trace of the limp he'd performed for 5 years. They sat down stiffly, looking around the crowded restaurant as if checking for familiar faces. Thank you for meeting, my mother said, her voice carefully modulated. We're hoping we can work this out. Privately, I smiled. Of course. Family should handle things privately, right? Like when you privately forged my signature on those loan documents? Keep your voice down, my father hissed. Why? I leaned forward. Worried someone might hear how you faked an injury to collect insurance money? Or how you used my identity to secure loans while I worked myself to exhaustion supporting you? Serenity's hand shook as she reached for her water. You're being dramatic. We were going to pay you back. With what? I cut her off. The boutique profits? The boutique you started with stolen money? It wasn't stolen, she snapped, too loudly. Several heads turned our way. Daddy said I could use it. It wasn't his to give. My mother reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back. Darling, please, we can fix this. Just unlock the accounts and we'll figure out a payment plan. Like the payment plan for Dad's medical bills? I pulled out my phone, showing them the insurance document. $3 million. That's what you really got from the accident claim. Where did it go, Mom? Your new car? Serenity's shopping sprees? My father's face reddened. That money was compensation for my pain and suffering? Your fake pain and suffering, I corrected him. I have the golf club security footage, remember? He slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware rattle. More heads turned. You ungrateful little... he started, but I cut him off. Careful, Dad. You're drawing attention. Wouldn't want Mrs. Richards over there to hear about your miraculous recovery timeline, would you? They all turned. Sure enough, Mrs. Richards was sitting 3 tables away, pretending not to listen while recording everything on her phone. You planned this, Serenity accused, her voice shaking. Like you planned to steal my savings? I smiled. Speaking of plans, how's Gerald? Still helping you hide assets? The color drained from her face. You don't know anything. I know about the meetings 6 months ago, the plans you made together, the way you laughed about how I'd never figure it out. I pulled out copies of their messages. I know everything, Serenity. My mother started to cry, dabbing at her eyes with an expensive napkin. Please, Sophia, think about what you're doing to this family. I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about 5 years of lies, 5 years of theft, 5 years of watching you all live in luxury while I gave up everything. I stood up, dropping several bills on the table. And now I'm thinking about karma. What does that mean? My father demanded. It means the ethics board is investigating Gerald. The bank is auditing your accounts. And those boutique investors you lied to? They're very interested in the proof I have of fraud. Serenity grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You can't do this. I'll be ruined. I looked down at her perfectly manicured hand, then into her panicked eyes. You did this to yourself. All of you did. As I walked away, I heard my mother call out, We're your family. I turned back one last time. No, you're just people who took advantage of someone who loved you. There's a difference. Outside, Javier was waiting in his car. How'd it go? I handed him my phone with the recording. Send copies to the lawyers and to Mrs. Richards. She'll make sure everyone knows the truth. You sure about this? I looked back at the restaurant window. My family was huddled together, their faces a mixture of fury and fear as they watched me leave. They had 5 years to do the right thing, I said. Now they get to experience the consequences. My phone buzzed, an email from my old architecture firm in Chicago. They wanted to meet about a possible position. I smiled. Let's go. I have a future to rebuild. Behind us, I could hear Serenity's voice rising in hysteria as Mrs. Richards approached their table, phone in hand, ready to spread the story of the family's fall from grace. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was happy to provide it. Mrs. Richards' gossip network worked faster than I'd expected. By evening, my phone was flooded with messages from family friends and acquaintances, each one more dramatic than the last. Serenity's boutique investors pulled out publicly, Javier reported, scrolling through local business news on his laptop. They're distancing themselves from the fraudulent enterprise. I was sketching at my drafting table when the first knock came. Through the peephole, I saw my mother, but she wasn't alone. 3 of her country club friends stood behind her, all wearing identical expressions of concern. I opened the door but kept the security chain in place. Yes? Sophia, my mother's voice cracked. How could you do this to us? Everyone's talking. Your father's business partners are calling, asking questions about the accident settlement. Funny how the truth spreads, I replied. One of her friends, Barbara, stepped forward. Darling, we know you're upset, but this vendetta is making you look unstable. I laughed. Unstable? You want to talk about unstable? I unlatched the chain and opened the door fully. Come in. Let's discuss unstable. They filed in, their designer handbags clutched like shields. I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. Here's unstable, I said, laying out documents. Credit cards opened in my name without my knowledge. Loans taken against my professional license. Bank statements showing my parents living beyond their means while I worked 2 jobs to support them. But they're your parents, Barbara protested weakly. They're thieves who happened to raise me, I corrected. And Serenity? She knew about Dad's fake injury for months. She helped plan how to steal my savings. My mother sank onto my couch, her face pale. You don't understand what it's like, trying to maintain our position in society. No, Mom, you don't understand. You sacrificed your daughter's future for country club memberships and designer clothes. How's that working out for you now? My phone buzzed. A text from Javier. Your father's biggest client just pulled their contract. They're citing ethical concerns. I showed the message to my mother. Her friends gasped. You're destroying everything we built, she cried. You built it on lies, I said quietly. I'm just knocking down the house of cards. Another buzz, Mrs. Richards this time. Serenity just got escorted out of the boutique space by security. Your mother's reputation is in tatters. One of the friends, Margaret, stood up. Trisha, we should go. The charity board meeting is in an hour, and given the circumstances... My mother's head snapped up. What circumstances? Well, Margaret shifted uncomfortably. The board feels it might be best if you step down, temporarily, until this situation resolves. I watched my mother's carefully constructed world crumble in real time. Her social standing, her precious reputation, all built on my stolen future, dissolving like sugar in rain. Sophia, please, she whispered as her friends edged toward the door. We can fix this. Fix what? The fraud? The theft? Or just your social calendar? The door opened before she could answer. Serenity burst in, mascara streaking her face. "They're pressing charges," she screamed. "The investors. They're saying I knowingly submitted fraudulent documents." "Did you?" I asked calmly. "You know I did. You have the proof." She froze, realizing what she'd just admitted in front of witnesses. Margaret and her friends practically ran for the door, leaving my mother and sister standing in my apartment, their perfect facades finally shattered. "I had dreams too," I said softly. "I was going to design buildings, create something lasting. Instead, I spent 5 years watching you spend my future on handbags and spa days." "We're your family." Serenity tried one last time. "No." I picked up my sketching pencil. "You're just people who taught me a very expensive lesson about trust." My mother grabbed Serenity's arm. "Come on. We need to call Gerald." "Gerald's not taking calls," I interrupted. "He's too busy cooperating with the ethics board investigation. Turns out he doesn't want to lose his license after all." They left without another word, but through my open door, I heard my mother's sobs echoing down the hallway. My phone buzzed again. An email from my old architecture firm confirming our meeting for tomorrow. A chance to rebuild my career from the ashes they'd left behind. Javier texted, "You okay?" I looked around my apartment, at my drafting table, at the future I was finally reclaiming. "Better than okay," I replied. "I'm free." Outside, I could hear Mrs. Richards on the phone, undoubtedly spreading the latest developments to her extensive network. By morning, everyone would know the truth about my perfect family. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about taking back what's yours. It's about letting the truth do its work. The manila envelope from my lawyer landed on my coffee table with a satisfying thud. Inside was everything. The fraud documentation, the forged signatures, the fake medical records, all neatly organized and ready to file with the district attorney's office. My doorbell rang. This time it was my father. "You look well," I said, noting his perfectly steady stride as he pushed past me into the apartment. "Amazing what a miracle recovery can do." "Enough games," he growled. "Your mother hasn't stopped crying for days. Serenity's facing criminal charges. Our name is mud in this town." "Karma's interesting that way." He slammed his hand on my table, making the envelope jump. "I'm still your father." "Really?" I picked up the envelope. "Want to explain these credit card applications you signed in my name? That's not very fatherly behavior." His face reddened. "We needed—" "No." I cut him off. "You wanted. There's a difference. You wanted to keep up appearances. You wanted Serenity to have her boutique. You wanted Mom to have her social status. What you needed was a daughter stupid enough to keep paying for it all. We would have paid you back." "With what?" I spread out the bank statements. "You were underwater before the accident. That insurance payout was your golden ticket, and instead of using it responsibly, you lived like royalty while I worked myself into the ground." He switched tactics, his voice softening. "Princess, please. We can work this out as a family." "Don't." My voice shook. "Don't you dare princess me. Not after what you did." A knock at the door interrupted us. It was Gerald, looking haunted. "Sophia," he said, stepping in. "The ethics board." "Found everything?" I finished for him. "They work quickly when there's clear evidence of fraud." My father spun toward him. "You promised this wouldn't happen." Gerald laughed bitterly. "And you promised this was all above board? Guess we're both liars." He turned to me. "I'm cooperating fully. They're suspending my license, but if I help with the investigation—" "Investigation?" My father's voice rose in panic. "The DA is very interested in the pattern of fraud," I said calmly. "Identity theft, insurance fraud, wire fraud. It's quite a list." "You wouldn't," my father whispered. I pulled out my phone, showing him the email confirmation. "I already did. They're expecting us tomorrow morning." "I'll disown you," he shouted. "For what? Not letting you steal from me anymore? For exposing your crimes?" I walked to my door, holding it open. "Get out, both of you." Gerald slunk out, but my father stood his ground. "You'll regret this." No, I really won't. I pointed to the door. Oh, and Dad? That limp you're suddenly developing? Save it for the prosecutor. I'm done watching you perform. After they left, I called Javier. It's done, I said. I filed everything. How do you feel? I looked at my drafting table where plans for my first new project lay waiting. Like I can finally breathe. My phone buzzed with a text from Serenity. They're freezing my accounts. The boutique landlord is suing. Please help me. I typed back. Like you helped me? By planning to steal my savings? I'm your sister. No, you're just someone who thought she could take whatever she wanted without consequences. Enjoy the lawsuit. Another buzz. Mrs. Richards. Your father was just escorted out of his office. Police were involved. I switched off my phone and walked to my window. Across the city, I could see the skyline I'd once dreamed of adding to. Tomorrow, I had the interview with my old firm, a chance to reclaim my future. The doorbell rang one final time. A courier with a large box. From the Hunt residence, he said, handing it over. Inside were my childhood things. Photos, awards, drawings. On top was a stack of old letters, including one I'd written at 18, detailing my dreams of becoming an architect. In the margins, in my father's handwriting, too expensive. Use her college fund for Serenity's car? I sat down hard, the final piece clicking into place. They'd been planning this for years, long before the accident. I'd never been their daughter. I'd been their investment, their safety net, their personal bank. My phone lit up with a message from my lawyer. DA wants to meet first thing tomorrow. They're taking this very seriously. Good, I replied. It's time everyone knew the truth. I looked at the box of my childhood memories, then at my drafting table where my future waited. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something better. Tomorrow, the demolition would be complete, and I could finally start construction on my new life. Let them face the consequences of their choices. I had blueprints to draw. The courthouse corridor felt colder than it should have in the middle of summer. I sat on a wooden bench, Javier beside me, watching my family huddle with their lawyers at the other end of the hall. The DA's ready for you, my lawyer said, emerging from a side door. Inside the conference room, my father wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother's makeup couldn't hide her sleepless nights. Serenity's designer outfit looked wrinkled, like she'd slept in it. The district attorney spread out the documents I'd provided. Let's be clear about what we have here, she began. Identity theft, insurance fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The evidence is substantial. We can explain, my father started. Please do, the DA interrupted. Explain how you faked an injury to collect insurance. Explain the credit cards opened in your daughter's name. Explain the forged documents. Serenity burst into tears. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The boutique was my dream. Your dream? I finally spoke. What about my dreams? The ones you all decided weren't worth as much as your shopping sprees. My mother reached across the table. Darling, please, don't touch me. I pulled back. 5 years, Mom. 5 years of watching you spend money that wasn't yours while I worked myself to exhaustion. Did you ever feel guilty? Even once? The DA cleared her throat. Mrs. Hunt, the bank records show you spent over $50,000 at luxury retailers while your daughter was working 2 jobs to support your lifestyle. My mother's face crumpled. We had appearances to maintain. You had a daughter to protect. I cut in. You chose handbags instead. My father straightened in his chair. We're prepared to make restitution. With what money? The DA pushed forward bank statements. Your accounts are overdrawn. The insurance company is demanding repayment of the fraudulent claim. Mr. Bennett's cooperation with the ethics board has revealed extensive financial misconduct. Serenity's lawyer whispered something in her ear. She went pale. The boutique investors are pursuing separate charges, the DA continued. They're quite interested in how their money was misappropriated. I'll lose everything, Serenity whispered. Now you know how it feels, I said quietly. The DA turned to me. Given the extent of the fraud and your cooperation, we're prepared to move forward with prosecution. However, if you're willing to consider a settlement, no deals, I said firmly. They need to face consequences. My father stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. After everything we've done for you? Done for me? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let's talk about what you've done for me. You stole my identity. You destroyed my credit. You took my savings, my career, my future, and you're standing there acting like I owe you something? The room fell silent. Mr. Hunt, the DA said, I suggest you sit down. Your position is precarious enough. My mother started sobbing. We'll be ruined. You ruined yourselves, I replied. I just exposed it. The DA gathered her papers. We'll proceed with charges. Given the evidence, I recommend you all secure separate legal representation. As everyone stood to leave, Serenity grabbed my arm. Please, Sophia, I'm your sister. Don't do this. I looked at her perfectly manicured hands, bought with my stolen money. You stopped being my sister the moment you helped plan to steal my savings. Actions have consequences, Serenity. Welcome to yours. Outside the conference room, Mrs. Richards was waiting with several other neighborhood gossips. Their phones came out immediately, capturing my family's walk of shame. Sophia, Javier called softly. Your interview starts in an hour. I nodded, watching my family disappear down the corridor. My father's confident stride now genuinely faltering. My mother's social status crumbling with each step. Serenity's dreams collapsing around her. Was it worth it? Javier asked as we walked to his car. I thought about the architectural plans waiting on my drafting table. About the interview with my old firm. About the weight finally lifting from my shoulders. They spent 5 years teaching me that family means nothing, I said. That loyalty is worthless. That love is just something to exploit. I straightened my shoulders. So yes, it was worth it. They taught me their lesson too well. My phone buzzed. The DA's office confirming the charges would be filed tomorrow. The local news would have a field day with the story of the prominent family's fall from grace. Ready to go build something new? Javier asked, starting the car. I looked back at the courthouse one last time. Through the windows, I could see my family still huddled with their lawyers, their perfect facade finally shattered. Yes, I said. Something honest this time. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's watching justice finally catch up to those who thought they were above it. The morning newspaper landed on my drafting table with a soft thud. The headline said it all. Prominent family pleads guilty in fraud case. Below it, a photo of my father being led from the courthouse in handcuffs, my mother and sister trailing behind with their lawyers. You haven't opened it, Javier noted, setting down 2 coffee cups. Don't need to. I turned back to my blueprints. The DA called this morning. Dad got 18 months. Mom and Serenity got probation and community service. They all have to pay restitution. How do you feel about that? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Mrs. Richards, your mother's selling her designer handbags online. Serenity's moving in with her college roommate. How the mighty have fallen. I switched off my phone and walked to the window of my new office. The Chicago skyline stretched before me, exactly as I'd remembered it. My old firm hadn't just given me my job back. They'd promoted me to lead architect on a major downtown project. Ms. Hunt? My assistant poked her head in. The contractors are ready for your presentation. I gathered my designs, but paused at a letter on my desk. The return address was the state prison. I hadn't opened that either. Aren't you curious what he has to say? Javier asked. Not really. I picked up the letter, then dropped it in the shredder. He had 5 years to say something honest. Now he can write his apologies to his cellmate. The conference room was packed with contractors and investors. As I laid out my designs, I caught my reflection in the window. Confident, professional, free. No more guilt, no more manipulation, no more sacrifices. This is your vision for the new community center? One investor asked. I nodded. A place where people can build something honest together, where family means more than just sharing DNA. After the meeting, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Serenity. I'm working as a shop clerk now. The community service is humiliating. Are you happy? I typed back. Happiness isn't about hurting others. It's about being free to build your own life. Maybe you'll learn that now. I'm your sister, she replied. No, you're someone who needs to learn that actions have consequences. Good luck with that lesson. Javier was waiting in my office. Ready for dinner? Almost. I looked at the blueprints one last time. You know what the worst part was? Not the money, not even the fraud. It was watching them celebrate stealing my future like it meant nothing. And now? Now they get to watch me build something beautiful without them. My phone buzzed again. My mother this time, from a new number. The country club revoked our membership. Your father's business partners won't speak to us. Please, can't we talk? I showed Javier the message. Should I respond? What would you say? I thought about it, then typed. Talk about what? How you chose designer labels over your daughter? How you watched me work myself sick while you spent stolen money? Some things can't be fixed with talks. Her reply came quickly. We're still family. No, I wrote back. We're just people who share DNA and a cautionary tale. Build a better life with your second chance. I'm building mine. I blocked the number and turned to Javier. Now I'm ready for dinner. As we walked out, my assistant handed me a magazine. My first major project was featured on the cover. Local architect rises from family fraud scandal to design landmark building. They mentioned the scandal, Javier noted. Good. I smiled. Let it be a reminder that karma comes for everyone eventually. Outside, the Chicago wind whipped around us. I looked up at the skyline I'd dreamed of shaping since childhood. No more sacrifices, no more manipulation, no more letting others steal my future. You never answered my question, Javier said as we walked. How do you feel about all of it? I stopped, looking at my reflection in a building's glass facade. I feel free. They wanted to keep me small, controllable, useful. Instead, they taught me how to stand up, fight back, and build something better from the ashes. My phone buzzed one last time. The DA's office confirming the restitution payments would begin next month. I deleted the message without responding. Ready to build something new? Javier asked. I squeezed his hand, thinking of my blueprints, my restored career, my reclaimed future. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about building yourself into something they can't touch, can't manipulate, can't tear down. Yes, I said. Something honest, something strong, something mine. The city stretched before us, full of possibilities. Finally, wonderfully, mine to shape.